Welcome to the Full Nelson. Today I'm going to be doing a caliber comparison. This is not for any of you guys out there who are firearms enthusiasts or already know a lot about different calibers and different guns and stuff like that. This is for newcomers, and the reason I felt the need to do this is because we have a major disconnect between the people who actually know about firearms and have experience with firearms and people who have no experience with firearms. And the issue that this has created is that we have people in the media and politicians and a lot of other people who are perpetuating myths and lies about different calibers and different firearms based off of misinformation or a lack of understanding. So today I'm doing this comparison primarily to help you understand more about the Ar-15, what the Ar-15 is usually chambered in and how it compares to other calibers that are readily available and commonly used. So to start off, I want to explain something. This is going to seem really silly to anybody who knows about firearms, but when I was a kid, I didn't know this. When I was just a little kid before my dad taught me as I got older how to hunt and stuff like that, I was under the impression when I saw a cartridge like this, that this entire cartridge, when you would fire a round out of a rifle or something, would fly downrange towards the target. Okay? Of course, that seems silly to anybody who knows anything about firearms, but for somebody who has little or no experience with firearms, you've only seen movies or whatever, that may not be totally clear to you. So what happens when you fire a round is that the firing pin hits this little part here, that little gold part you can see on the back of this casing. That's a little metal piece that fits in the back of this casing called a primer. And the firing pin strikes that primer, which then causes ignition, and this casing is full of gunpowder. And so firing pin hits the primer, causes ignition or sparks to go into the gunpowder. Gunpowder propels the projectile down your barrel and towards your target. Okay, that's a simple explanation for you. Now, I want to talk specifically about these different calibers and how they compare. What you're looking at here are the actual projectiles that are being pushed out of these different calibers. I pulled them out of their casings and stuff like that so you can better see them and get a better idea of the size. For example, if you looked at something like this and you thought this entire thing flew downrange, you'd be like, wow, that's crazy. But then when I show you the actual projectile, you're like, okay, yeah, it's still a large bullet, but it's not as crazy as propelling something that size. Now, starting from left to right, on the far left we have two 12-gauge shotgun shells. Both of these are 3-inch Magnum. The first one is a 3-inch Magnum with 00 buckshot. It has 15 pellets of 00 buckshot. That's what you're looking at here. Each one of these pellets weighs 53.8 grains. Now, for a 12-gauge shotgun, the shells usually range in size from 2 3/4 up to 3.5 inch. And depending on the length of the shell, so they have some that are longer, and then they have some that are a bit shorter than these. Depending on the length, the payload is going to be greater or it's going to be less, depending on whether it's a 2 3/4 or a 3-inch. The longer the shell casing is, the more you can put inside there. So this is shooting this 3-inch Magnum round, or I'll just say a 12-gauge shotgun shell shooting 00 buckshot will shoot anywhere from 9 to 18 pellets, depending on the length of shotgun shell. That ranges in payload from 484.2 grains at 9 pellet payload with 9 pellets and a 2 3/4 inch shell, all the way up to 968.4 grains in a single round out of a 3.5-inch Magnum loaded with 00 buckshot. This right here with my 3-inch Magnum is 807 grains of lead. So all of these lead balls are leaving this round in one shot for a total of 807 grains of lead. If you go up in size, 968 grains of lead in a single shot. Go down in size to a 2 3/4, 9 pellet load, 484.2 grains. Okay? So that is a lot of lead in a single shot, really a lot. You'll get a better feel for that as I go through the rest of this. Next one I have here is a 12-gauge shotgun shell. This has a 1-ounce Foster slug. You can see in the nose of it. great big slug. Whereas on this one, it's all folded up with all of those little lead pellets inside. So that's this right here. This is a 1 ounce Foster slug. 1 ounce in terms of grains is 437.5 grains of lead. Okay, so this is 437.5 grains of lead. That's what these are. Okay. Next on my comparison here, I have my long range rifle, which is my 300 Winchester Magnum. And out of that gun, I am shooting these bullets at the moment. I'm typically shooting anywhere from 225 grain bullets to 230 grain bullets out of my 300 Win Mag. Now next, we have a 7mm Remington Magnum. I don't have a bullet to compare it to. It looks similar to this, but it's a bit skinnier and a bit shorter. And that is a 180 grain bullet, so it's a bit less substantial. Then we have a 308. I have that bullet pulled here, which is all marred up, this silver one right here. And I believe that's around 147, 150 grains. Then the next one is the dreaded AR-15 that the media keeps talking about, it being too powerful for civilians to own. It will, you know, no, we shouldn't be allowed to own it because it's so powerful. Only the military should be able to use it. We couldn't possibly use it responsibly. That's this one, okay? And it's this little teeny tiny bullet here. This is shooting typically a 55 grain bullet. Now you can get a lot of these chambered, or I mean, you can get a lot of these. A 300 Win Mag, for example, you can shoot bullets that are 140 grain bullets all the way up to 230 grain bullets. 7mm, you can shoot, you know, 140 grain bullets all the way up to 180 grain bullets or so, and so on and so forth with each of these. There is a variation of weight there that you can load for these particular calibers. But these are what I load them in, and these are somewhat representative of what is pretty common, not necessarily with the 300 Win Mag, unless you're into long range, which I am. Then everybody, or most guys shooting really long ways, I mean 1,500 yards and beyond, are going to be shooting these ultra heavy bullets. But there's plenty of guys who are only shooting 165, 180 grain bullets out of their 300 Win Mag. Anyway, so this little thing here, as I mentioned, is the AR-15. It is shooting typically 55 to 62 grain bullets is most common. You can load them as heavy as, out of an AR platform, I don't know that you can get much over 80 grains, maybe 75 grains, 77 grains, something like that, is about as heavy as you're typically going to see in an AR-15. But it's the most common are 55 to 62 grain bullets in an AR-15. Now the last one I've got here is 9mm. Of course, these aren't the same color because it's a pain to pull these bimetal rounds out of these steel cases. So I just grabbed another 9mm bullet I had lying around. These are shooting 115 to 147 grain bullets. Okay. So for comparison's sake, as far as just the sheer amount of lead going downrange in a single shot, the AR-15 is at the very bottom of this comparison. It's the lightest weight bullet, and in fact, the truth about the AR-15, or the truth about the 223 or 5.56, which is the actual caliber that most AR-15s are chambered in, is that they are shooting some of the smallest rifle bullets available. There's a lot of places that won't even let you hunt with these 223 and 5.56 rounds. At least not on deer, size game, stuff like that. I shouldn't say can't hunt at all, but these are typically used in most places and generally accepted as varmint cartridges. Guys will use them for coyotes. They'll use them on wolves. They'll use them on, rabbits, or it would really demolish a rabbit just because of the speed. But anyway, they'll use them on things like that, smaller critters, whereas for deer or elk or bigger game, they're going to go with something like a 308, a 30-06, a 243, something quite a bit more substantial than this. So that's the truth about it, is that it's actually very small. It's very on the low end of the spectrum, contrary to what you're going to hear in the media and hear by a lot of people on the internet. It is not some ultra powerful, super crazy caliber that civilians shouldn't possibly be allowed to own. As I mentioned, all of these calibers are putting more lead downrange in a single shot. Now, with that being said, there is kind of a balance between the speed and the weight of a bullet. I would not recommend, or I would not prefer to be shooting a 9mm, even though it shoots a heavier bullet than an AR-15 typically shoots. In fact, heavier bullet than, I know of no AR-15 that'll shoot 150. I shouldn't say that. I keep saying AR-15. I don't know of any 223 or 5.56, which is the most common caliber that AR-15s are found in. I don't know of any of those that can be loaded heavier than like 85 grains. So, yeah. But anyway, in spite of the fact that this is a heavier bullet coming out of a 9mm than a 223, than what would typically come out of an AR-15 chambered in 223 or 5.56, I would still prefer to be shooting a rifle round over a handgun round, and that's because this bullet is going 2,700 feet per second. This bullet is going maybe 1,200 feet per second, somewhere in that range. So that speed makes a big difference. This round has substantially more energy than what a handgun has, and if you can keep that energy within the target, in other words, the bullet doesn't just ice pick straight through and have a whole bunch of wasted energy that just keeps flying through the air. If you can transfer that energy directly into the target, this is going to be better than a 9mm, in my opinion. Some people may disagree with that, but that's my opinion. Now, so the media may take information like that and say, and I have heard some of this as of recent, well, this bullet's going so fast, that's what makes it dangerous. It's not that the payload's substantial, it's that it's going so fast. Well, again, there's a balance there. Would you rather have 900 or anywhere from 484 grains to 968 grains of lead hit you at a lower speed, all spread out, which is what this would do, or would you rather be impacted by a single projectile going really fast like a little 55 grain 223 round? Nobody who knows anything about firearms, or no one in their right mind, would choose this over this, okay? So there is a balance there. Also, when they say, yeah, but it's because the 223 is so fast that makes it dangerous, all of these hunting rounds are in that same neighborhood with speed, except for this bullet, 225 grains, 230 grain bullets, weighs more than 4 times what you're typically shooting out of an AR-15 that's chambered in 223 or 5.56. So you're talking about a bullet that is 4 or 5 times bigger, going the same speed or maybe even faster. So it just depends. But so compared to any tradition or any type of hunting round, it's really low on the totem pole. Now, another argument you're going to hear is that some people are going to say, yeah, but the AR-15 can have these 30-round magazines, 40-round magazines, big drum magazines, and stuff like that. Well, you can get a 300 Win Mag from Nemo Arms and a variety of other companies, semi-automatic 300 Win Mags. That's another issue. Some guys will say, well, these are bolt action, this is semi-auto, that's what makes it dangerous. Again, that's not accurate. You can get all of these that you see on the table in a semi-automatic platform, every single one. You can get big drum magazines to shoot buckshot out of. Anything you want for a 12 gauge, for a 300 Win Mag. Browning makes the Bar semi-automatic, which holds, I don't know how many rounds. It doesn't hold 30 rounds or whatever, but then you have Nemo Arms and other companies that make semi-automatic 300 Win Mags that hold a substantial amount of, they hold a lot of bullets, okay? 308 is one that you can get 25 grain. I've got one sitting right here. I'll pull a magazine out. That magazine for a 308. I can get this in a semi-automatic platform that holds, and it's substantially more powerful than what a little 223 is. And I can get 25 round magazines for it, or 20 round magazines for it. These 9mm handguns, this is another great example, 33 round magazines. Let's pull this out a little so you can see a bit better. So I'll show you this. Okay, got a 9mm handgun with a 33 round magazine in it. So the idea that this 223 is somehow, for one reason or another, more dangerous. Well, it's semi-automatic. All of these can be had in a semi-automatic. Well, it's going really fast. Well, all of these hunting rounds are going just as fast, and most of them are bigger and substantially more powerful than a 223 or 5.56. Well, you know, in other words, every one of these reasons that you have been given for the most part by the media about this caliber is somehow, you know, the mysterious ultimate killing machine, and these other calibers are not as substantial, and so it's okay to own these, but it's not okay to own that, is bunk. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. It's just not true. I hope that this video has helped any of you who don't know anything about firearms or about these different calibers see that. If you guys have any questions or comments about this video or about any of these calibers that I've shown, or any other questions or that you would like me to answer related to firearms, I would be happy to do that. Feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Please share this video with any of your friends or other people who don't know about this. I mean, I was raised in a home where I was taught to hunt, I was taught how to use firearms, and I learned about most of this stuff at a pretty young age. A lot of these other people out there that are spreading misinformation may be doing so just because of sheer ignorance. I do think that there are some people out there that are doing it on purpose, and their intentions are probably not what they ought to be. But I also think there's a great deal of other people that are being persuaded because we haven't necessarily done our job to try to help educate people so that they have a better understanding of what they're looking at. It will make it to where the media will no longer, or the people who want to spread misinformation, will no longer be able to lead them astray, because they'll know the truth. They'll know better. They'll have actually seen him. They'll have actually shot him and have some experience there to where they will be able to separate fact from fiction. So thanks for watching this video. I'm going to be putting up another video here shortly and explain why the AR-15 is such an excellent choice for home defense compared to a lot of these other calibers. This is another myth that's been perpetuated in the media, which is nobody needs an AR-15 to defend themselves, and I am going to be talking about why I think it ought to be on the top of a lot of people's list. I'm not saying it's necessarily the best caliber. I'm simply saying there are a lot of reasons why the AR-15 should be on the top of your list for self-defense. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.